Jay Prince Jr. is a loser, Honeycomb Brady. That's why he got you over there rapping that, yeah, 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 yeah. Man, you don't shut that stupid ass shit up. I ain't never been at the light and heard playing, yeah, 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 yeah.
This is what happens when an unstoppable force crashes into a name that doesn't move. This is Charleston White stepping to Jay Prince Jr. And everything that followed, you need to see this before it really heats up, because this isn't your usual rap drama. This isn't two artists going back and forth. Online, over money, or a slick bar in a track, what you're looking at here is a controversial public speaker out of Fort Worth, Texas, going head-to-head with the son of one of the most influential figures in Southern music. That's a serious collision to really understand why this hits different. We've got to break both sides down from the very beginning. First up, Charleston White, because his life story feels so intense. It almost sounds unreal. Born May 17, 1977 in Fort Worth, Texas. Charleston grew up in tough conditions that shaped everything around him. His parents split early. His father, who served in the Navy, was mostly absent, and his mother worked long hours at General Motors just to keep things together. As a kid, he was restless, frustrated, and tired of struggling. And he started getting pulled into street influences way earlier than most kids even think about real-life problems by just 14 years old. Yeah, 14, Charleston had already become a leading voice among his peers, guiding others into risky situations around Fort Worth. That's heavy. But in the mid-1980s, everything flipped when Charleston and a few friends got caught up in a Foot Locker situation involving taking athletic jackets without paying, and that moment changed everything. During that chaotic scene, a man named Michael Levy tried to step in and stop what was happening in the chaos. One of Charleston's associates, Antoine Doolittle, took an action that ultimately led to Levy no longer being with us. Charleston didn't pull trigger himself, but under Texas law at the time, that distinction didn't change the outcome. He was charged and convicted at just 14 years old in Tarrant County, facing a first-degree case that would define his early life. He became one of the first juveniles in the county sentenced under the Texas Determinate Sentencing Law, which was a major deal. Authorities sent him to a Texas Youth Council facility, and when he turned 18, the recommendation was to move him into the adult system. Everything pointed toward a future that felt locked in, like his story was already written. But then something unexpected happened. 4 juvenile correctional officers, people who didn't have to step in at all, spoke up for him in court and backed his potential. They told the judge this young man could still turn things around, and against the state's push, the judge agreed. Instead of being transferred into adult system, Charleston was allowed to remain in a youth-focused program. Charleston White walked out of Giddings just before turning 21 in 1998 after serving nearly 7 years. And that was his turning point. He didn't go back to that system again. Instead, he went all in on changing his life, enrolling at Texas Wesleyan University to study criminal justice. And in 2015, at 46 years old, he crossed that graduation stage, proof of a major comeback. After that chapter, he stepped into a new role: motivational speaker, volunteer chaplain, helping people transition back into society and a voice in the community. Then social media hit, and everything shifted. Charleston White, with his unfiltered opinions and zero patience for what he calls fake narratives, suddenly had millions of people tuning in for his raw, straight-up takes that most wouldn't even touch. He speaks on gang culture, hip-hop, street politics, and systemic issues, and he calls people out directly. No hints, no coded language, no backing down. He says it loud and challenges anyone to respond. That's who we're dealing with here, a man with a past tied to serious consequences, now turned community advocate, but also a viral figure who keeps things intense and unpredictable with bold energy and no filter. Now flip to the other side of this story. Jay Prince is way more than just a music executive. Don't get that twisted. A lot of people outside Houston don't fully understand the level he operates on. Jay Prince is the founder of Rap-A-Lot Records, a label that played a huge role in shaping hip-hop history. He launched it back in 1986 out of Houston's 5th Ward, a neighborhood known for its tough environment and deep roots. But his reason wasn't just business, it was personal. He started it to give his brother, Sir Rap-A-Lot, a different path and keep him away from negative influences. Think about that. This wasn't just about music. It was about building something powerful to change someone's direction. That's the level of loyalty and vision we're talking about through Rap-A-Lot Records. Jay Prince helped introduce the world to Geto Boys, Scarface, Willie D, and Bushwick Bill, one of the most influential rap groups ever. Their 1991 album, We Can't Be Stopped went platinum and shifted the entire direction of Southern hip-hop in a major way. And he didn't stop there. He played a key role in developing artists like Udjisi Bun B, Pimp C, Devin the Dude, Zero, and Tree That Truth. That's a serious lineup. He laid down a blueprint that later inspired figures like Birdman and Master P, along with many other Southern label leaders who followed the city of Houston, even honored him with his own day James Prince, recognizing decades of giving back and investing into the community. But there's another side to his reputation. People talk about just as much beyond the music success. He's known for having strong influence when stepping in to handle situations before they grow bigger. There are stories in the industry about him sending what insiders call a courtesy messages, by basically reaching out directly to let people know to ease up before things escalate. One well-known example involves Charlemagne the God. When he repeatedly joked about Drake on The Breakfast Club, there are also long-circulating stories that J. Prince shared warnings with major figures during tense moments in hip-hop history, whether every detail is confirmed or not. The fact those stories keep spreading says a lot about how much presence and respect his name carries in those circles. This is the kind of influence people say he moves with. Now his son J. Prince Jr. is a different type of figure, but he operates in that same powerful circle. Born James Prince Jr. on October 30th, 1987 in Houston, Texas. He's the founder and CEO of Mob Ties, and don't get it twisted by the name, there's meaning behind it. Mob Ties stands for movement of bosses together in elevated structure. That's not just a label, it's a whole mindset. J. Prince Jr. runs the Mob Ties clothing brand out of Houston, manages artists, owns a restaurant in Midtown, and stays deeply connected across music, culture, and business all at once. He's built a strong presence with over 700 followers watching his every move online, and with that visibility comes attention, especially during major moments. J. Prince Jr. has been seen at the center of some of the most talked about situations in recent hip-hop conversations. Back in November 2022, when Takeoff from Migos tragically lost his life in Houston during a late-night gathering, footage surfaced showing J. Prince Jr. at the location. That clip spread fast and sparked intense reactions online, especially as people debated what they were seeing. He publicly denied any wrongdoing, but the moment still stirred major discussion across social media. Then, in 2025, another situation brought his name back into headlines when All-Star Jr. made claims connecting him to an incident involving NBA 10. J. Prince Jr. quickly responded, clearly stating on Instagram that he was simply at a restaurant alone celebrating a birthday and had no involvement at all. The reality is this: J. Prince Jr. isn't just carrying a last name, he's carrying a whole reputation. There's history, loyalty, and heavy expectations tied to that name, and every move he makes gets watched through that lens. Every situation, every disagreement connected to him gets judged based on what his family represents. In Houston and Charleston, White saw all of that, the influence, the legacy, the power, and basically said, I'm not playing by those rules. Now this is where things really take a turn. This situation didn't start with a song or anything like that. It didn't come from a club incident. Either it started the way a lot of real tension begins, with words, opinions, and someone speaking boldly without holding back. Charleston White did what he's known for, speaking openly about people in positions of power and refusing to stay quiet for years. He had been calling out J. Prince Sr. and questioning the culture of a checking in that's often talked about in Houston. That idea that if you're a major name in hip-hop and you come through the city, you're expected to show respect to certain figures connected to rap a lot. Charleston pushed back on that hard. He labeled the whole idea pressure tactics. He openly questioned J. Prince's image and said that Mob Ties wasn't what people made it out to be. He argued that the reputation surrounding the Prince family was built more on perception and influence than anything else, and statements like that, especially aimed at someone with that level of recognition, were always going to spark serious reactions. People have received quiet warnings for way less than this, but Charleston White didn't just say it once and move on. He kept going. He kept posting, kept speaking, kept applying pressure with his words. And once J. Prince Jr. got pulled in the conversation, when Charleston started talking about the son's moves, his presence during controversial moments, and his connections, that's when everything started heating up fast. Now the streets started buzzing. People connected to the Prince name were hearing everything being said, and by February 2023, the situation hit a whole new level in a very public way. On February 17th, 2023, Charleston White was set to headline a stop on his Charleston White and Friends comedy tour in Houston, Texas. The show was sold out. The venue was locked and the crowd was ready. Everything lined up, and then suddenly, Nothing, the event got canceled, and when Charleston explained what happened, the internet went wild trying to piece it together. According to Charleston, the Houston Police Department's gang unit contacted him directly, not to detain him, not to question him, but to give a warning. He claimed they told him something like, "Hey man, you got an issue with Mr. James Prince. We don't want any problems." That alone had people talking. Then he said the mayor of Houston's office, Sylvester Turner's office, also reached out with a similar concern. They mentioned hearing Charleston White was scheduled to speak at an event, and suddenly this situation became way bigger than just a canceled show. It turned into a full-blown public controversy in their own city. That's what made it feel even bigger, according to Charleston. Both the Houston Police Department and the mayor's office were, in his words, concerned about Jay Prince. Think about that, a claim that officials were reaching out to a private citizen saying they couldn't guarantee safety at his event that instantly raised eyebrows everywhere. Charleston White didn't stay quiet after that. He jumped on social media, visibly upset, speaking loudly, and surrounded by displayed firearms, making sure people felt his frustration. He said, "It's done been confirmed James Prince runs Houston." He claimed that both the mayor's office and Houston PDs were there, reacting to calls about his appearance, and used that as proof to support his argument. He went straight at the situation, criticizing Houston PD, calling out the mayor and saying Rap-A-Lot had major control in the city. He even showed multiple weapons on camera, saying that's what he had ready in response to the situation. That clip spread fast, millions of views. Almost instantly, the internet split right down the middle. Some people believed Charleston was exposing deeper power dynamics, while others felt like he had gone too far and questioned his actions completely. Either way, everyone watching. But then things took another unexpected turn. A few days later, Charleston claimed that individuals connected to the Prince family had contacted his brother, who was incarcerated at the time. According to him, that message made it clear the situation was being noticed even behind closed doors. And when something like that gets mentioned in a public dispute, it adds a whole new layer of intensity people can't ignore. That's a different level of pressure. And Charleston White didn't back down. He turned things up even more. He went right back to social media and claimed that Jay Prince Jr. had the mind, that Jay Prince Jr. reached out to him after all the talk. Now here's where it gets deeper, because there are layers to the situation a lot of people might miss if they're only watching the surface level drama. Charleston White's argument was never just about personal issues with the Prince family. It was bigger than that. He was speaking on what he believes is a system. He argued that the checking-in culture, where artists or public figures are expected to show respect when coming through Houston, is more than just tradition in his view. It's pressure the industry has quietly accepted over time. He claims that many people stay silent because they don't want to deal with the consequences that could come from speaking out. He even suggested that local systems don't always step in effectively, which raises bigger questions about influence and how power really operates in major music cities like Houston. That's a serious claim. It opens the door to conversations about the connection between street culture business and official institutions. Charleston White basically framed it like this: he believes there's an unseen layer of influence shaping how things move in Houston, and he pointed directly at Rap-A-Lot Records as part of that conversation. Now, whether people agree or not is a whole different debate, but here's what made it stand out: the contact from Houston PD, outreach from the mayor's office, and the timing right before his show got canceled. Those were confirmed events, and that's why this whole situation had people watching closely. And this is where everything starts reaching a boiling point, because after all the posts, the claims, and the back and forth energy, people were waiting on one thing: who was actually going to respond publicly, and how far this could really go. Charleston White kept the lane, talking like he had nothing to lose. He doubled down on everything he said, making it clear he wasn't backing off his stance for anyone. Every video, every post felt more intense than the last, and the audience kept growing as more eyes locked in to see what would happen next. At the same time, Jay Prince Jr. stayed way more controlled in how he moved. Instead of jumping into loud back-and-forth exchanges, he kept his responses measured and selective, choosing when to speak and when to stay quiet. That difference in approach made things even more interesting, because now people weren't just watching what was said, they were watching how each side handled pressure. Meanwhile, the internet kept doing what it does best: breaking everything down. In real-time, clips were getting reposted, analyzed, and debated across every platform. Some people sided with Charleston's message, saying was calling out uncomfortable truths. Others felt like he was pushing things too far and creating unnecessary tension. But one thing was clear: This was no longer just a local issue. It had turned into a national conversation about influence, respect, and how power really moves behind the scenes in the music world. And once something hits that level, it doesn't just fade away quietly. It either escalates or forces someone to draw a line. Charleston White even recorded himself during a phone call, breaking down those conversations in detail for his audience. He spoke on what was said, how it played out, and what really stood out. No official denial ever came from the city or the police department. That silence had people talking, because sometimes what isn't said can feel just as loud now. When it comes to J. Prince Jr., Charleston's criticism hit a very specific angle. He framed it as legacy versus reality. Charleston argued that Jr. was moving off the strength of his father's name without having the same level of credibility to match it. That's a bold statement. He went further, saying the Mob Ties brand looked more like image and online influence tied together by a powerful family reputation. Whether people agree or not, that was the message he pushed, and he didn't hold back saying it. And in situations like this, when someone questions your reputation in public, especially in that kind of culture, there's always pressure to respond. That response can come through words or actions. But people expect something. J. Prince Jr., however, never directly engaged Charleston on that same loud level, and that caught attention too, because in these spaces, silence can get interpreted in all kinds of ways. But here's what people know about Charleston White. He doesn't step away from pressure. That's not how he moves. When things heat up, he leans right into it. So even after the show cancellation, the calls from officials, and everything surrounding his family situation, he kept pushing forward and stayed vocal. Charleston White didn't slow down at all. He kept dropping videos, calling out both J. Prince and against family situation. Jr. by name, he repeated his stance, saying J. Prince wasn't what people claimed, and kept questioning different situations tied to JR, speaking openly and turning his platform into something like a one-man breakdown of Houston culture and industry influence. Then in September 2025, older clips started resurfacing and going viral all over again. One of them, titled Charleston White Torches J. Prince Scenery's Done Staying Silent, showed him going at both father and son with that same intense energy years. After the initial 2023 situation, he was still going strong. Every few months, new clips pop up and the internet jumps right back into the conversation like it never ended. But here's where things take a serious turn, because during all of this, real-life situations were also building around Charleston that can't be ignored. In October 2023, he was arrested in Tarrant County, facing charges, though Kelly, related to aggravated assault involving a weapon along with an animal-related charge. He denied the animal claim, saying he had purchased protection for his wife and that the situation was being misunderstood. Those issues were later resolved, but the pattern didn't stop there. In October 2024, he was taken into custody again in Tarrant County on similar allegations. Then on February 18, 2025, he was arrested for a third time. Within about 2 years, he was booked at the Lonnie Evans Correctional Center in Fort Worth on 2 counts related to aggravated assault involving a weapon, and was held with bond at the time. Now let's be clear about something. None of these arrests have been publicly linked to the Prince family or framed as a direct response to this situation. These appear to be separate issues connected to Charleston's personal life, but the timing still stands out. You've got a man publicly going back and forth with one of the most influential families in Houston's hip-hop history, while also dealing with multiple serious legal situations in his own city. 3 arrests in about 2 years, repeated charges tied to aggravated assault involving a weapon, with the most recent case involving him being held without bond. At the time, that alone had people paying close attention. Then just 3 days after his February 2025 arrest, Charleston popped back up on Instagram. He claimed he had been cleared of all charges and appeared on camera holding a firearm. Whether everything was officially resolved at that moment or he was making a statement, the message was loud and clear. He was still present, and not backing down. That kind of energy gets mixed reactions. Some see it as bold and unshaken, while others see it as risky and likely to bring more problems. Sometimes it's both. But step back and look at the bigger picture for a second. This situation goes beyond just Charleston White and J. Prince Jr. trading words online. It highlights a deeper tension that's been part of hip-hop culture for decades, the clash between established power and outspoken individuals. J. Prince built a label that permanently changed the direction of Southern hip-hop. Geto Boys, Scarface, E.G. These aren't just names, they're foundations of the culture. He helped shape the blueprint that Cash Money Records and No Limit Records would later follow. He even received an honorary doctorate from Texas Southern University, and has an official James Prince Day in Houston. On top of that, he played a role in connecting Drake and Lil Wayne, which helped influence the sound of the last 2 decades. That kind of legacy is real, and it deserves respect, no question. But sometimes over time, legacy can shift into something else when respect that was earned starts to feel expected from people who weren't part of that journey. It can create tension when checking in shifts from a choice to something people feel pressured to do. That's when conversations start changing. Charleston White's argument has always been centered on that exact point. He claims that Houston's hip-hop scene operates under an unspoken pressure system, where people go along with it because speaking out could bring consequences. That's his stance, and he stayed consistent with it. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Reactions to Charleston's statements, calls from officials, canceled shows, and messages reaching people close to him ended up raising even more questions for some observers. Those responses seemed to align with the concerns he was voicing rather than shutting them down, because if the claims were completely off base, some might expect either total silence or a clear public response. Instead, what people saw looked to some like influence being used to control a situation, and that only added more fuel to the debate. Now, let's focus on J. Prince Jr. for a second, because he's dealing with something every next generation in a powerful family eventually faces. He didn't choose his last name. He was born into a legacy that was already built before he could even understand it. And now everywhere he goes, that legacy follows him. Every room, every move, every situation, it all gets judged through that lens. Anytime his name comes up in connection with major events like the tragic loss of Takeoff or situations involving NBA YoungBoy, people immediately view it through the mob ties narrative. Every disagreement, every headline gets compared to how his father handled things back in the day. That's a heavy expectation to carry. And when Charleston White calls out J. Prince Jr. directly, not just the father, but the son, he's really testing something deeper. He's asking out loud, does Junior carry the same presence, or is he benefiting from something already? That's a tough question, but it comes up often when someone inherits influence. Now, whether people agree with Charleston or not, he represents a voice that refuses to follow unwritten rules in hip-hop culture. There's usually an expectation to show a certain level of respect when stepping into. Joe represents a voice that refuses established spaces. Charleston completely rejects that idea from his perspective. He came up in an environment where showing respect to the wrong people could lead to serious consequences, or being taken advantage of. That shaped how he sees the world today. So when he speaks, he's not filtering it through tradition. He's speaking from his own code, and that's what keeps this situation so intense to watch. His whole philosophy is built around saying the things other people avoid. He calls it out directly, no filter. Now, is he always right? No, let's be real, not every take lands the right way. Some of what he's said has crossed lines. Some of his targets have been questionable, and his legal issues show his personal life hasn't exactly been clean or simple. There have also been moments where his comments about late artists or people affected by violent situations were widely seen as inappropriate. That part can't be ignored. But when it comes to one specific topic where powerful figures in hip-hop use influence to quiet criticism, Charleston White's situation has people paying attention. Look at what actually happened, he says. The police contacted him. The mayor's office reached out. His brother received messages while incarcerated, and a sold-out comedy show was suddenly canceled. The combination doesn't just disappear. It creates a pattern people start questioning. Now here's where things stand today. J. Prince Sr. is still viewed, as one of the most influential figures in hip-hop culture, with a legacy through Rap-A-Lot Records that speaks for itself. That foundation isn't something that gets erased by online debates. J. Prince Jr. is still active as well, running mob ties, managing business moves, and dealing with ongoing public attention tied to different Houston-related situations. At the same time, he's facing separate online back and forth with All-Star Jr. in 2025, adding another layer to the conversation around the Prince name. Right now, the family's brand is being examined from all angles at once, and how they move in this era of social media, constant attention, and non-stop commentary is going to shape the next chapter of the Prince legacy in a major way. Meanwhile, Charleston White, as of early 2025, walked out of the Lonnie Evans Correctional Center just days after being booked on 2 counts related to aggravated assault. Then almost immediately he was back online, claiming he had been cleared and appearing on camera holding a firearm. He didn't slow down, not even a little. He's continued building his presence too, from guest appearances on shows to film roles on platforms like Tubi to growing his podcast audience. He's stayed active, and visible, love him or not, he remains one of the most talked about and bold voices in the culture right now, and the situation between Charleston White and the Prince family. It's far from over there. There's been no resolution, no agreement, no moment where both sides step back. It's still active, still being discussed, and still pulling people, and the reason this keeps getting attention is simple. It touches on something deeper. It raises questions about influence, accountability, and who can speak freely without facing pushback. That's what keeps people locked in Charleston, said things. People only say in private on the other side the Prince name carries major influence in history, and even after everything that's happened, Charleston is still speaking loud. So what's really at the center of all? It's not just two sides going back and forth. It's a collision of two completely different mindsets. On one side, you've got structure, legacy, and long-established influence on the other. You've got someone who rejects all of that and speaks however he wants, whenever he wants. That clash is what keeps this situation alive, because it forces a bigger question. Does influence automatically deserve silence from others, or should everything be open for discussion no matter who it involves? That's the line being tested in real time. Charleston White moves like rules don't apply to him. He says what he wants, stands on it, and deals with whatever comes after. That approach attracts attention, but it also brings serious pressure. Meanwhile, the Prince legacy represents a system that's been respected for decades, built through relationships, business moves, and consistency. When those two worlds collide, it's never going to be quiet. It's going to be loud, public, and uncomfortable to watch at times. And that's exactly what's happening here. People keep trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong, but that might not even be the full story. Sometimes it's more about what the situation reveals. This whole thing shines a light on how influence works, how narratives get shaped, and how quickly things escalate when someone refuses to follow the usual code. And the wild part, there's no clear ending in sight. As long as Charleston keeps speaking and the Prince name keeps carrying weight, this situation stays active. Every new clip, every response, every rumor at all adds another layer. The real question here isn't whether Charleston White is a good person or not. Complicated, no doubt about that. A man with a serious past who later became a community voice, then turned into a viral figure who keeps finding himself in legal trouble while speaking about change. That contrast is real, and if someone wants reasons to question him, they're easy to find. But the question also isn't whether J. Prince Jr. and his family earned their legacy. That part is solid. He built something powerful from the ground up and helped shape Southern hip-hop in a way that can't be ignored. The real question in 2025 is this: what happens when long-standing influence meets someone who refuses to follow the usual rules? What happens when the pressure doesn't work the way it used to? When canceled events don't quiet someone down and outside messages don't make them step back? Charleston White is what that looks like, and the reason this story keeps coming back, keeps getting views, and keeps people talking is because it feels bigger than just one situation. It feels like a test of how much things have really changed. This isn't just about two names, it's about influence, voice. And what happens when those collide in public? That's why people keep watching. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know where you stand. Do you see Charleston White as someone speaking uncomfortable truths, or someone creating more problems? And what do you think about J. Prince Jr.? Is he living up to that legacy or still finding his own lane? If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next.